All right, Brandon, thank you for joining and doing this with me. I'm going to switch to the presentation, so we'll make a quick introduction on who we are here at Alteryx. Just give me 1 second. There you go. You go first.
All right, perfect. Thanks, Fabio. And thanks everyone for joining. My name is Brandon Bach. I'm a principal solutions engineer here at Alteryx. I've been with Alteryx about 4 years now, and my background is in finance, marketing, and advertising agency experience. So going to be providing some personal anecdotes today as Fabio and I talk through some of the marketing objectives for organizations and how Alteryx has a really good place.
Thank you. My name is Fabio Italiano, one of the analytic executives here for the Office of Marketing. I spent pretty much all my career in marketing analytics, strategy, consumer behavior, ranging from management consulting to industry, and for the past 3 years, been at Alteryx. So why don't we jump ahead into today's topic? And guess what? We're going to talk about data. And data is pervasive, it's relevant to every function. Marketing sometimes has been a little late, depending on the industry, depending on the maturity of a company, but undoubtedly data plays a critical role in marketing processes because you have to merge and munge data from different systems. You have to deal with increasing real-time data in some industries, and you need to foster cross-collaboration, not just with sales, but the entire organization. And the benefit are industry-wide, across industry-wide, recognized. The time cost savings, customer acquisition, the famous view or infamous view of a 360-degree view of a customer, the improved brand awareness, and last but not least, agility in marketing, which we'll see in marketing operations as we talk later, is essential. And so, Brandon, I'm sure that you have a lot of comments on at least a handful of these values based on your experience.
Certainly. And part of this is to inspire folks who maybe tend to gravitate towards the Office of Finance as the entry point to prospect into for organizations to think broader and think about applicability beyond your traditional accounting use cases. Because when we're talking about marketing in particular, things like time and cost savings, of course, are always going to be important with data, but taking that a step further in the context of marketing, what does that do for an organization, and why is it important? And so just briefly touching on some past experience running analytics for an advertising agency, thinking about delivering faster results for an organization means that maybe you're able to further optimize your campaigns to drive additional revenue, right? You're getting answers to those stakeholders faster. You as an analyst or your audience's analysts are able to focus on that next set of questions for the business. The 360-degree view of customers, you'll find that in the space, there are a lot of technology offerings that say they do this. However, they tend to be more cookie cutter in nature, right? So thinking about the flexibility that ties into that point on the right, agile marketing and market timeliness. If you need to go beyond the cookie cutter, you need to have a flexible solution. And so Alteryx is really powerful in getting you the 360-degree view, as well as custom catering to maybe what specific client demands are. And then finally, brand awareness, just really developing marketing strategies and attribution models to help you more effectively market your brand. It's never good enough to just take what's off the shelf. You need to always be innovating and creating in order to drive a company forward. And I think if we can position Alteryx as not only an automation tool, but really a problem solving and agility platform, it'll be very well received by the marketing community.
Yeah, thank you, Brandon. I totally agree with your cookie cutter statement. Not that I don't love MarTech. I love MarTech. They do great things. but they provide solutions for the state of art, right? And so you need that agility because customers, competitions, economic environment, they are in constant evolution. And speaking of constant evolution, um, the role of the CMO, I don't think we'd say anything new, is evolving to be more familiar and acquainted with technology. And so we see more often than not an overlap with the CIO in the organization, as this Venn diagram highlights the opportunities for value. And sometimes the CMO needs to acquire skills from CIOs and vice versa. And so the role that nowadays technology and data are playing, they're forcing kind of this coming together of two worlds. And speaking of coming together of the two worlds, today's topic is mostly going to be focused on MarTech operations. And so, we couldn't talk about MarTech without referring to the godfather of MarTech, Scott Brinker. So this is our own personal view on the landscape technology that Scott puts out every year. What's important to notice here is that the MarTech is not going to stop growing. As we mentioned earlier, competition is going to evolve, new technology is going to come in, AI is going to be more and more applied to all aspects of marketing in our lives as customers. And so it goes without saying that the rate of growth in marketing technology in terms of solutions and vendors is only going to grow. Today we are 9,000 plus. We saw a 24% over the past 2 years, and there's a wide gamut of areas where the MarTech is applicable. So that leaves a lot of room for the need of orchestrations, as we said, as you're trying to bring all the data together for that famous 360 view of the customers. Brandon, would you agree with that statement?
Absolutely. And there's an important theme here in that these organizations are recognizing that they need to be data driven. And so it's no longer good enough to have a gut feeling or to have relationships in certain areas that might get you good deals on, setting up campaigns. You truly need to understand the signals from every aspect of what you're trying to deploy with your campaign, as well as truly understanding your customers. And that world needs to come together in the form of data in a way that you can actually act on it. So certainly echoing all of the themes that you referenced on this slide.
Cool. And I'm going to shamelessly continue to steal frameworks and refer to Scott Brinker as in the next slide. This is, I believe, a blog that he put out as MarTech Operation Principles. And this is not intended to be considered a matrix for the marketing operations where you need to find your sweet spot, but rather a reminder that you are indeed, as a leader in the marketing operations, you need to balance out all these dichotomies. So the dichotomies between centralizing and decentralization, the dichotomy between automation, technology, and the human aspect of people, right? So uh, that's the only way you can cater to efficient processes. You can continue to explore innovation on your own, and as new vendors and technology come into the pictures, you can be authentic and provide a human touch on an individual level, and you can also build a solid brand that speaks to people. And I do believe in the fifth force is, of course, the ongoing change, right? So there's a recurring theme of changing and ever evolving environment and organization. And I wanna pass the ball to you, Brandon, right? Because I do believe that Alteryx fits as an analytic platform all these principles, but I'll let you take it from here.
It certainly does, and one thing I'd like to highlight is, and this was true even for myself coming into Alteryx as a new employee. I really focused a lot initially on that top left corner, efficiency. Alteryx is this orchestration and automation platform. And what I recognized over the course of my career here, and what I hope you all are seeing in this slide, is that there are some very important pillars that might not necessarily be top of mind. So efficiency, of course, automation and orchestration and taking care of things that are very tedious is absolutely a great application of the product. But let's pause for a moment and think about the top right, innovation, Alteryx as an experimentation tool. And the reason that's important is a lot of the time people focus on getting from point A to point B, but that implies that you know what point B is and how to get there. Sometimes you don't actually know how to solve for something, right? And that's where Alteryx allows you to problem solve to get to that point. Now let's think about the bottom left, brand. Why is brand important? Well, think about the democratization of analytics messaging that we've been pursuing as an organization. What that does for customers when they truly believe in digital literacy and empowering the line of business with the technology of today and the future, not technology of the past, they're now empowering their organization with a global mission, and everybody's getting on board with making things better. And I think that's a really important theme, especially over the course of this past year. And then finally, authenticity. Alteryx is a human-centric tool. I certainly saw this in my past experience. You know, companies are not just companies; they're made up of people, and there's a very real experience that people have when they're going through their day-to-day. And Alteryx, as a human-centric tool, it's fun to use. It gets people time back with their families. It's an experience. I believe. Mark Anderson referred to some of our passionate individuals as zealots even. And the reason that I bring that up is because all of these pillars together really and change at the core really show that Alteryx is beyond just this automation tool, right? It's truly an experience. It's truly a problem solving and experimentation platform. And it's something that organizations are embracing to be part of their global mission, which is why this is taking such a hold in the space and especially in marketing as we're talking about today.
Yeah, that's very well said, Brandon. And I just want to mention on a very, very basic practical level that marketers, just like many other departments, they do spend a lot of time on spreadsheets, as the some recent surveys highlight, and that's basically our playground, right? Where we take people that spend time on spreadsheets, formalize their thought process into a repeatable workflow, and that's how we build automations. And then we build from there, we elevate people to build predictive modeling and build also integrated analytics application and management reporting. So I just didn't want to leave that right there on the slide without mentioning. But I'll continue using the Scott Brinker's reference and talk about the personas in MarTech. So we have what Scott calls the maestro, the demand builder, the maker, and the modeler. And I'll pause right there, Brandon, if you want to go over, how Alteryx can help all these personas. You can take it from here.
Absolutely. And Alteryx is not just an integrator of systems, it is a bridge between teams. And so if you think about how Alteryx exists as this platform for analytics, it can also connect to other web applications and APIs and databases and file shares. And all of these pieces come together to make for solutions that are usable by all of these different personas. And similarly, you have teams that might not otherwise be working cohesively together that now can work actually on the same projects. Just a quick anecdote. Previously, when I was performing attribution modeling, I myself was not a pure data scientist. However, Alteryx as a platform with its Python integration allowed me as really a business intelligence analyst or marketing analyst at the time to work with a data science team. And together we were able to bring together the work of both teams into a single solution. So just highlighting the fact that this is bridging the gap not only between technology, but the actual people behind that technology as well.
Yeah, thank you. And Scott and Brendan, I also want to highlight, the little blurb up top, but that came from you as we were preparing slides, right? Because going back to the plug and play solutions, they give you maybe great analytics, but they still a black box, right? So our mantra is that we want to upskill people and want people to understand what's happening in the data flow, right? So the concept of Alteryx providing a solution that is not a black box that can enable people to grow as they get more familiar with the application, I think is a critical point in today's job market, where upskilling is in analytics is a critical piece of your career.
Definitely. And that transparency also brings trust to process as well. And as you have organizations who are looking to not only automate and make things more efficient, but actually trust and act on the results of those efforts, they need to be able to understand this is doing what I want it to. Right. And so having the transparency, having the control, having centralized deployment and change management allows companies to see exactly what's happening step by step by step. And that is absolutely a differentiating factor for Alteryx.
Wonderful. And I think you already touched upon the cross collaboration. So I know that you have a use case today for us, but I just want to mention that when you use Alteryx, you don't use a platform in isolation just for your department, right? So you really establish what I like to call a visual analytics language that you can share across the organizations, right? So it goes without saying that the whole go-to-market needs to be integrated. So sales, marketing, and customer success and customer service. But also as a marketer, product marketing is tightly integrated with the product team. And without mentioning that as you deal with privacy, as you deal with market share and retention, those are going to have relevant impact on legal, finance, and last but not least, IT, because IT needs to kind of take care of the complex MarTech, where hopefully Alteryx can become a tool to make the IT's life easier, as you can use it as an orchestrator across multiple platforms. So with that, Brendan, why don't you walk us through your own experience from your prior life in the advertising agency? I'll let you go through your use case, and then you can steal my screen and share a workflow that you have developed with your team.
Absolutely. So just to frame the concept of attribution modeling for those who might not be familiar, when you are running advertising campaigns, an agency will generally have a client that they have secured a certain amount of money to go spend on advertisements. That those advertisements could be on a variety of different media channels. So it could be anything from your traditional radio ads to TV ads to even newer advertising channels like YouTube or podcasts or a variety of different options there. And so attribution modeling is basically the math behind how you give credit to a specific placement or a specific channel for driving a conversion, for getting someone to buy a product, right? So money from the client gets spent on these channels. That then hopefully leads to people purchasing product or services as a result. And then the analytics at the tail end of that is providing feedback on what the ROI is of those efforts. If I'm spending $1,000 on this specific placement, am I getting $1,000 in conversions? Or am I driving more traffic to a website, right? How is this all coming together to drive value for that client? And so I want to frame this use case and this idea first really with the problem. And it's a problem that many companies don't truly understand is a problem until you put it in perspective. So in the context of analytics and the team that I was on at this organization, every analyst was responsible for the analytics for 4 clients. That's 4 per person. Okay. The scope of work that was involved in that required you to basically spend Monday through Thursday bringing data together from a bunch of different systems, visualizing that data in Click at the time, but replace that with Tableau or Power BI, et cetera. And then Friday was the client meeting. You'd be presenting the ROI, how those advertising campaigns were working. So there are a couple of issues there. The first is 4 clients per analyst, right? So what happens if your organization brings on 4 more clients? Well, you have to hire another analyst to take on that extra work, right? You have a scalability issue with people. So what organizations often do is they say, okay, 4 more clients, hire another person. 4 more clients, hire another person. It's very difficult to scale that way. So I'll get into how technology helps with that. And the second is, I mentioned in the scope of work and everything that's involved, Monday to Thursday doing data processing and Friday presenting the results means that when you're actually acting on that information, maybe when you're making tweaks to where the money's being spent on different channels, different placements or otherwise, or maybe even different messaging, your creative is changing, it's stale data at that point. So you're actually missing out on time that making a change earlier in the week would actually drive decisions more effectively and give you more time to realize the benefits there. So what did Alteryx do or what was Alteryx able to be leveraged for from that perspective? Well, we recognized that the attribution models all followed a very similar structure. There were systems like Strata for media planning and buying, Salesforce for creative data and campaign information, Postgres for spend, customer SFTPs for conversion data, and Google Analytics and Adobe Analytics for website analytics. And the reason it's important to bring up all those different systems is Alteryx served as an integration layer that combined all of those. So what we were able to do is recognize that there was a consistent set of connections between these systems and create a template. And the end result was, once we templatized all of these clients into a similar format and maybe custom catered the tail end, we took every analyst, remember that they were dealing with 4 clients, they were able to now handle 25 clients. So we're talking about improving the productivity and capacity by a factor of 6 times for an Alteryx designer and a server, right? I don't know in what world you can go hire 6 more people for $5,000. It's just not possible, right? So this concept of using technology to scale productivity and to think about how to templatize common analytic efforts across an organization is a huge benefit to companies. And in this particular instance, it allowed us to avoid having to train and onboard and hire all these new people to take on more clients. Additionally, the direct integration with Tableau, Power BI, and Click means that it integrates very nicely within the data ecosystem and their overall strategy. And then the code-free and code-friendly approach means that different teams can collaborate. And if you are onboarding someone new, you're not training them on a 50-step operating procedure in an Excel spreadsheet that it was before that would be slow and crash and just painful to work with, but they had something that was documented and easy to use and shareable. So it was a huge benefit there. And one quick view of an actual workflow. I'm going to jump over to my screen really quick, and Fabio, if you could let me know when that comes through.
Yeah, I can see it.
Perfect. This will seem a little bit intimidating at first because there are a lot of tools on the canvas, but I'm showing you this because I want to inspire and I want to explain this context here. This particular process is one that took an entire team of 10 people a month to put together. So not only do you have month-old data that you're acting on, and did it take a team of 10 to do, but the end result of this green container here with all of these different sources, the blue container here with all of the business logic, and the orange container here with the output to Click, meant that this entire process could now run in 15 minutes. Now, there's a lot of complexity in that process, and my objective there was not to say, hey, look at this intimidating workflow. My point was to say Alteryx can tackle very complex business logic and be custom catered to exactly what you need, no matter the complexity. And the reason that that is so important is the point that was on the slide pulled from Scott Brinker, which was this idea of agility, right? You could not do that in a cookie cutter MarTech system that was provided, right? As an out of the box plug and play. That was a custom catered solution with very specific business logic that there was not another option outside of throwing 10 people at it and a bunch of spreadsheets. So that specific solution was particularly valuable because it not only took a month of work down to 15 minutes, but it meant that highly critical business decisions were able to be made. And that actually secured quite a bit of additional client funding for further advertising campaigns. So that was one of my personal wins at my last company. But I wanted to share that because the agility and the problem-solving capabilities of this platform were really a differentiator in acquiring new business.
That's great, Brandon. And you either throw 10 people at it on a regular basis, or maybe 10 developers to work on it for a year, right? And then by the time they finish, some other data source comes into the picture, and then you have to restart. But before we end, what was the list of data sources that you were pulling data from? Because I think that's relevant for all the marketers that are listening.
Absolutely. So thinking about just the different systems, right? They oftentimes don't exist in the same place. So thinking about, you might have Google Analytics or Adobe Analytics, where you've got web traffic and maybe you have conversions in there if you're lucky, right? If they haven't set up their conversions in Google Analytics, maybe that's in an SFTP folder somewhere, right? Alteryx can pull data from there. Maybe you've got Salesforce for CRM data or creative and campaign data. Like, so we were blending in what messaging was being used, right? Did Joe Rogan talking about it this way versus this way result in greater sales, right? That was actual conversations we'd have, right? Thinking about Postgres for spend, right? If you're calculating ROI, you need to see how much money is being spent on a placement versus how much revenue from what's being sold is being brought in. And Strata for media planning and buying. If you're talking about an advertising campaign, it's not just about the results, it's about like the frequency and the reach, right? Do you have, what kind of impressions are you expecting, right? Especially if you're talking about, say, like a YouTube video or a podcast, right? How many are you getting in the first 30 days? How many are you getting over the lifetime of that video, right? there's so many different ways that you can look at data. It's not just this simple calculation, and that's why you have to be flexible, not only integrating those systems, but looking at it in unique ways so that you can be really smart about optimizing those campaigns.
Thank you, thank you. I like how you handle the curveballs, but just because you're the you lead us firsthand. So I guess we're at the end. That was great, great talk. Thank you for joining me on this. We'll do a lot more as we get response. We have a ton more use cases to share. We have our own best practice framework for the Office of Marketing with our blueprints in marketing. We'll try to bring in some more guests. Maybe we'll ask Scott next time if he wants to join us. And for now, thank you for everything. I'm gonna put up our own the slides with our own contact. And thanks again. That was fantastic. Thank you, Brandon.
Absolutely.